Ego death is a well-known term in the spiritual community. I highly doubt anybody is viewing this not knowing the meaning of ego death. What we call ego death can be achieved with very dedicated and hardcore meditative and yogic practices, but also can be experienced much easier through psychedelic medicine. In this video, I'll be covering 3 different ego death related concepts, such as ego suppression, ego loss, and ego death itself. Before I get into this, I just want to note that everybody experiences ego death differently. In one's experience, they may only experience some and not all the things I talk about in this video. Also, when we refer to ego death, we refer to the complete loss of sense of oneself. What makes us us is just completely eradicated. Our ego is made by our experiences in life, and in an ego death, all of these experiences, everything that makes us who we think we are, ceases to exist in any form. However, what many of us don't realize is that we experience ego death almost every day, just in much smaller, hardly even noticeable forms. If you ever walked into a room and totally forgot what you were going to do, you consciously experienced a tiny ego death. The thought was lost because the ego was on a mission, and the sudden change in sensory input caused us to forget what our mission was. We don't call this small forgetfulness ego death. Ego death refers to the complete loss of sense of self, but just this tiny instant of forgetting can still draw parallels to a full-on death of the ego. If you ever take a major leap of faith in your life, maybe you quit your 9-to-5 accounting job to pursue your career as an artist or something, that's ego death. Your identity as an accountant, your likely master status, as we call it in sociology, has shifted to that of an artist. The old ego, the accountant, has died and has been replaced by the new ego, the artist. While this isn't what we call a full-blown ego death in the spiritual and psychedelic communities, you can still consider it an ego death just on a smaller scale and without the complete loss of a sense of self. When we begin to awaken, we begin to have these smaller ego deaths in the process of becoming who we truly are meant to be, our true self. Like the example I just used, one may be incredibly talented in an artistic way. He or she may be able to capture the true essence of a particular moment or idea onto a canvas in a way that inspires, motivates, and leaves people in awe. But that person is also miserable in a meaningless 9-to-5 job. In order to make that person's dream of becoming an artist, they'll have to take a leap of faith that will involve a series of deaths of the ego, as well as new births. They'd have to forego the identity of their occupation at their 9-to-5. They may leave friends at that job behind. They'll have to deal with all the stress and all the doubters that say it's stupid for them to give up their stable job and leave it behind, etc. It's not a comfortable process. It's a leap of faith. It's fear. It's the death of certain aspects of yourself that were integral to your sense of self. It's ego death. You can still have an ego death without forgetting your name or where you came from. We're constantly leaving certain aspects of ourself, our ego behind, and giving birth to new pieces of ourselves. And that's literally what I'm making this video to emphasize, that there are different types of ego death, and that we go through this nearly every day, whether we realize it consciously or not. Certain aspects of ego death cannot be experienced unless you dive deep into the world of meditation and yoga, and I mean deep, or unless you take a psychedelic. And even if you take a psychedelic and you're not aware enough, or just taking a psychedelic just a trip, you'll experience ego death but will have no idea what happened to you. Psychedelics aren't for stupid people, and it takes a certain level of awareness to attain benefits out of them. But anyway, this ego death that we cannot experience in our daily lives has levels to it. Firstly, we'll start to experience a sort of ego suppression. I don't believe this is an official term, but have seen it used loosely on Reddit a few times, and essentially this is the ability to see the inner being beneath everything while still being fairly rooted in reality and retaining a sense of self. You become completely one with the present moment and can talk with striking fluidity due to the fact that you're very much in touch with your emotions, putting you in a state in which you can articulate fluently with ease. Realizations about the world you live in may occur, like how flawed the system is, how certain things or people in life are holding you back, etc. In this state, as I loosely call it, ego suppression, we feel as if our IQ has risen, we're in touch with everything, thoughts are clear, there is little or no stress or anxiety, we are present, life is good. As I said earlier, this state can be achieved with meditation or yoga, or can be psychedelically induced. However, this state of ego suppression can dissolve into ego loss, or complete ego death, and this can be also achieved through meditation or yoga, but much deeper into the practice, and also can be achieved through higher doses of psychedelics. In this state, we'll begin to lose our sense of identity. If we look into the mirror, we'll see and realize that we are just wild apes, putting on a costume each and every day because we're seeing us for the organism that we are and not who we think of ourselves as. A deep sense of panic and terror may also occur, especially to people who have not experienced this before, because, well, we literally think we're dying. Everything that makes us us is going away. Our experiences, our memories, our friends, our family, our job, all of that slowly seeps away from us during this deep state of mind. And as that seeps away, we literally get the sense that we are dying, because all of those things I just mentioned makes us us. Our body is still functioning, but our body has little to do with our sense of self. And at this stage, we're likely not even aware of our bodies at all, because we're just so lost inside our mind. After we've forgotten all sense of self, we can say that complete ego death has occurred, and now all that is left is just our awareness. This is nothing like the smaller ego death that I described earlier with the accountant turned into an artist. This is the complete loss of all identity, as both an accountant and an artist, and literally everything else that has ever happened in that individual's life. Even your own name won't be remembered. Literally everything is gone. Only the awareness remains. We no longer view a desk as a desk, a pencil as a pencil, or a computer as a computer. If we're looking at either of those things, we just view them as some strange, abstract object, because that's all it is. A desk is only a desk because we call it that. A pencil is only a pencil because we call it a pencil. And a computer is only a computer because we call it a computer. All the labels and names and stigma we've placed on things completely cease to exist, and we see things for what they truly are. I'd argue that there even are deeper stages of ego death, because it took me multiple ego deaths to realize that we are more than just our bodies, and in fact, we are infinite. During my first ego death experience, I realized that all I am is just a hairless monkey that puts on a costume every day, and that it really isn't much more than that. But in my later ego death experiences, I realized I was more than that. I am everything, and that when my human body dies, my awareness will continue. And I'd even argue that there are deeper stages beyond that, because lately I've been watching a lot of this guy, Leo from actualize.org, and he seems to have gone deeper than I have. Maybe I've gone that deep, but just haven't been able to realize it. Maybe I'm too inexperienced, but he seems to have way deeper epiphanies on the whole concept of absolute infinity than I have ever had. And he's taken 5-MeO DMT, which is something I've never tried. So I can imagine he's gone deeper than I ever have. But what he describes is that we are just absolute infinity. Like absolute infinity. Like absolute infinity. And it's a concept that our little human brains can't wrap our minds around. We're simply just not advanced enough. It's impossible to comprehend, but on 5-MeO DMT, this guy says absolute infinity can be experienced. And even though I've never experienced it before, it seems like what he described was just true enlightenment, like what the Buddhist describes, just pure nirvana. So yeah, there are levels of how deep you can go into ego death, from small daily ego deaths to ego suppression to complete ego loss, and potentially even deeper. I hope you guys gained some insights on the concept of ego death today. If you did, drop a like. It helps promote my content so more people can see it. And if you guys want to see more stuff like this, do not hesitate to subscribe. As always, have a great day and peace.